Welcome to Module 3, all about segmentation and personalization in your strategy. So this is about taking what we've learned in Module 2 and really looking at how we implement it. Now, personalization has been around for forever, since shops began. Let me give you this example. In the 18th century, really good retailers would recognize their customer and tailor their pitch according to what they knew about them. So there's this story of Lock & Co hatters in St James's Street, London. And as the story goes, a trusted customer could arrive outside the shop on their carriage and shout, "Hat!" and then leave. The shop's workmen would then refer to their records for the details of that customer's hat size and style preferences. Then they would make the hat and deliver it directly to their home. It brought together all of those elements of personalization that we look for right now, and that home delivery service as well. And who's seen Minority Report with Tom Cruise, where he walks into this Gap store and the artificial intelligence in store asks him how those assorted tank tops work out for you? Now, unfortunately, we're not in that world right now with in-store experiences. Imagine that world. That would be amazing. And that's certainly where I see the in-store experience needing to go and starting to move in that way. But we are there online. We can do this online right now using all of those different elements of data from our data pyramid. But of course, we do have to be careful. We have to walk that fine line and being natural and smooth and not creepy. So there is that targeted area that we have to really consider the human element of how we're putting our messages across, when we're sending them, and what we're sending, so that we don't come across as too much. Now, what too much is a fine line to draw, but I'll give you some examples a little bit later on in the presentation. But customer desire is morphing into expectation, and there are whole businesses springing up around personalization. So stylists that create your outfits or choose your shoes and send you selections each month. 64% of people expect companies to provide an individual experience when they've given them their data. And 83% think an individualized experience is really important. They want those personalized experiences, and they are willing to share personal data in exchange for personalized offers or discounts, product recommendations, and those online personalized shopping experiences nowadays. Well over half of people want that. And if they're giving you their data, if they're giving you permission to use their data, you're letting them down if you're not creating those personalized experiences. And this doesn't just go for email. This goes across the whole multi-channel, omni-channel experience. Your customers aren't just your subscribers. They're on your website. They're interacting with your social media. They're allowing you to send them SMS alerts. And we need to think about how we connect our data together, as we previously spoke about, in a way that allows us to use that data across multiple channels. Now, who knows the difference between multi-channel and omni-channel? Some of you may do, some of you may not. Multi-channel is where there's lots of different channels being used, but they're being used in isolation. They're not being used to feed in together. Omni-channel is where each of those different channels talks to each other and passes data back and forward, so that we can create one connected customer experience. This is, again, the nirvana of where we want to go, getting that single customer view and being able to link it all together. So we have to think about what people are giving us, how they're interacting with us, and how we can connect that together, if at all possible, for the best experience, and to allow us to personalize that journey that somebody has with our brand. But it's not easy. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it is easy, because accessing the right data, putting all of that data in the right place, capturing it, storing it, creating a single customer view, keeping it up to date, using the data that you have are all key challenges that we see marketers having. And putting that value of personalization across, certainly to get that senior level buy-in and investment, can be really difficult. One way that you can do this is to demonstrate to your leadership teams what happens if you don't have personalization in place versus when you do. So show them how you're currently communicating and how it's not putting the customer first. Then test it on a small basis, test and prove that you can get positive returns from that testing, and then scale up. Use technology to allow you to scale up cleverly. So think about the technology that's out there and think about how you can use it to best help you meet your objectives, what we went through in module 1. This all connects together. So delivering that personalization at scale can absolutely be difficult. And there was a study, a report called Bridging the Customer Experience. And it showed that no more than a quarter of the respondents said that they do not have the technology needed to deliver great customer experiences. So that more than a quarter of survey respondents said that they do not have the technology needed to deliver great customer experiences. And 66% said that technology platforms are not sufficiently joined up to deliver great customer experiences. So if you have a clear strategy with defined goals and objectives, you can start to find the technology and how you link it together that is going to help you to scale up, get that investment and buy-in so that you can get the data in the right place and create those personalized experiences in your program. It's so important because customers and prospects want to feel human. They want, not just in emails, but on websites and social media and throughout that omni-channel experience, they want to be remembered. They want to feel listened to and understood. They want to be in control of what they're doing. And this is what GDPR has been brought in to certainly help with, the control over what's happening. And to be sent relevant offers and information and content based on them and their specific individual needs. They don't want to be lumped in with everybody. This is where the rumor that email marketing is dead has come from. And as the title of my book suggests, email marketing isn't dead. The way you're using it is. So we have to think carefully about how we're targeting people and what we're targeting them with to make them feel special. And this brings together 3 key elements. It brings together understanding who our customers are, what your customers need, and when they need it. And when you bring those together, that blue point in the middle where it all crosses over is your customer centricity point. It's understanding who those people are, what they need, and when they need it, and then giving it to them, speaking in their voice, preempting their needs. It sounds easy, but it's definitely not. There are lots of different data sources, different customer types, different products, and we have to bring all of our data together and help us to answer those questions that we have. So as marketers, we have lots of questions. What is the customer trying to do? What are they likely to do next? Which customers are about to churn? What's the optimum frequency with which to send my messages, or the best time to send messages? What's my customer lifetime value? And if we can understand those 3 elements of customer centricity, we can start to answer those questions and really understand how to target our customers. CMOs are looking to invest in personalization, but they have to have that proven level and that trust that it's going to work before they're going to put budget behind it. So we have to be able to prove that and push it up the line. Personalization really requires a deep well of customer data. The skills and integrations to leverage that data wisely is also really important. So starting with that data audit and your understanding, thinking about what you need, how you need it, and what the resources are that you need to deliver that is what you're going to want to do first in order to then go forward and get that budget. There's a lot of larger cultural conversations happening in businesses around privacy and trust, and not just in businesses, in life generally between people. So we've got to tread lightly in that personalization effort. We've got to make sure that we follow the legal regulations, but also that we start to give consumers what they want. We know that they want this. Look at the popularity of those businesses that offer it. Netflix, for example, is all based on artificial intelligence and providing personalized recommendations of what someone might want to watch next. There's thousands of programs on Netflix, but you don't see those. You see on your home screen all of those personalized recommendations. And in the emails that they send you, personalized recommendations based on what you've watched before, what you've told them you like, what you've added to your list. This is where we're going, using technology to cleverly preempt what our customers will want, but not doing it in a way that is too creepy. We've got to balance that privacy and trust. But if we want to get the best results from our email marketing and our marketing generally, we have to understand our segmentation models, and we have to get smarter with what we're using. So segmentation, our S factor here. There's two main types that I want you to think about this as. There's your group segmentation, where you take groups of people with similar attributes, male, female, different types of buying patterns, for example, your VIPs versus those who've only bought from you once. Your groups of people with a similar attribute that you can pull together and talk to in groups. Then you've got your next level of segmentation, and this is your personalization. It's your one-to-one segmentation. So you're moving away from sending a one-size-fits-all message to your groups, to your one-to-one message that is delivered specifically for that person based on their data, based on their individual needs. Now, you can bring that segmentation and personalization, or individualization as we've termed it here, you can bring those together. So you could create a segment of people who are your VIP customers. You could only send an email to them, and within that email, you've got your individualization, your personalization, where you're offering product recommendations based on that individual person's own browsing behavior or previous purchase data. So we're linking the two together, and this is where we need to go. But to do that, I can't tell you what segments are going to be best for your business, because I don't know your individual business. Of the people listening to this right now, we've got lots of different businesses, lots of different business types that you're all in. So you have to understand your data, do your data audit, and truly understand your customers. So what do you know about them? What are the characteristics of them? What makes them similar or different? What are the different channels they use, and how can you best target them through those channels at the right time? We're going to talk about that in the customer journey segment a little bit more. How do different types of customers engage with you in different ways? Do they have different needs? There are so many different ways that you can segment your audiences, and it really depends on the data you collect, but most importantly, it depends on the objectives that you have. Go back to the first module. What do you want to achieve? Knowing what you want to achieve, you can then drill that down to understand how you're going to achieve it with your strategy, and then tactically who you want to send those emails to, what you're going to say to them, and when you're going to send those emails. And between B2C and B2B, of course, there are differences in data. So let's think about that different data pyramid. Your demographic data, psychographic data, behavioral data, environmental aspects that are going to come in perhaps to the cultural element of what you're looking at, versus B2B. And you see how that data is then changing. So depending on your businesses, you need to work out what are the best segments for you. And I want to give you some tools to bring together the information from your objectives, bring together the information from your data audit, and start to work out what is the best way forward for you. So the first tool that I want to give you is a SWOT analysis. Now, some of you may have come across this before. It's about getting a better insight into your internal and external business environment when you use it generally. So it's about how your business is positioned in relation to that market and your competitors. But in this case, I want you to use it specifically for an area of email marketing. You can use it for lots of different areas to evaluate what you're doing. But in this case, let's think about it in a segmentation point of view. So a SWOT analysis is about identifying your strengths and your weaknesses in a specific area, and then the opportunities that you have from those weaknesses to do better. So we're going to understand the key issues that affect your business, spot and deal with weaknesses, minimize risks and defer threats, capitalize on opportunities. We're going to really want to take advantage of your strengths and develop those business objectives. It all leads in to allow us to identify those strategies and tactics that are going to allow us to better achieve our goals. And that's going to tell us where we need to start. So let's break this down in a little bit more detail for you. So your strengths, think about any information that makes it really easy to identify why what you're doing, whether you're doing this based on your overall business or your segmentation strategy, why what you're doing is really good. You know, is it really easy to do your segmentation selection at the moment? Is it a fast segmentation process? Is it using a variety of different data sources so that you get a more holistic view of what your customers and prospects are doing? You know, are there ways in which your processes and systems make this really easy? Do you have a whole wealth of data that you have in a really easy to use format? You know, what is it that is a real strength of, in this case, your segmentation strategy? Then think about your weaknesses. So what is the disadvantage of what you're doing? So is your disadvantage that your current segmentation strategy is too broad at the moment and you're not really digging down on your customer information and being able to provide personalized information? Is it that you're not providing a personalized experience at all at the moment, or you're just doing the basics? You know, is it that your data is in a real mess and isn't in a single customer view, so you can't get to it easily? Is it that there's data in different places in your business, but you don't know how to access it and bring it into your email marketing? So think about what those weaknesses are of what you're currently doing. Then think about the opportunities that throws up. So it throws up the opportunities to create deeper segments and specify specific areas that you feel you could go into here as an opportunity. Think about additional segments that you could add. Think about ways in which you could improve your data systems. But also think about the threats. So threats to your business, threats to implementing your segmentation strategy, threats to actually getting this through. So it could be changes in the legal landscape around being able to track behavior. It could be a threat in the sense that it's going to take 6 months for your IT team to make any changes to the way that data is collected on your website. It's going to mean a threat that your competitors are using a much more sophisticated segmentation strategy than you, are much more personalized, and therefore more likely to take a greater market share and win customers that you're currently talking to generically. So put all of that into those 4 boxes and go as deep as you can with that SWOT analysis. Just by doing this, it's going to link together your objectives and your data, but it's going to identify particularly those weaknesses and opportunities that you can then build on to get a much deeper understanding of your segmentation strategy, but also the threats that might come up that might stop you from getting there. You can then go to your senior management and you can say to them, this is what we want to do. These are the threats. This is how we think we can overcome it. And these are the results that we think we might see by doing that. So it helps you to really plan out in a visual way what you might be doing. So I want you to go away and do that task. You can come back to, the rest of the modules in the recording a bit later on as well if you want to. But just take some time to go through and understand that and keep coming back to this. Do it every 6 months or so, and it'll keep basically a whole list of segments that you could possibly target on your to-do list. But just coming up with those ideas is one thing. You have to understand whether or not it's worth targeting them. So when you're planning your segmentation approach, you're going to go through the steps that we've just talked about. You're going to do your data audit, and you're going to define your objectives so that you can narrow that down to your channel and your campaign level objectives and define your segmentation objective. What do you want to achieve by creating these segments, and what data do you need to do it? Then you need to go into preparation, collect the data together, make sure the data is in the right place for you to access it. Then you want to do some profiling. So before you go on to create those segments and bring them all together and plan what the content is you're going to send to them and when you're going to send it, you need to understand what the characteristics are of the customers in each segment, but you also need to understand the value of each segment and whether or not it's actually worth creating. So you need to evaluate the potential and commercial attractiveness of your ideas for your segments and identify those that are most valuable, and that's where you start. So think about these areas. Think about your criteria size. So you have to have enough people in that segment to justify going about spending the time and resources to create it. Now, what size that is will differ depending on your business. If you are a business that's looking for a VIP audience, and you might be able to narrow it down to 100 people who buy from you every day, spend thousands of pounds, are advocates for your business, that is an amazing list. And just having 100 people on that list is massively valuable to your business. But in other cases, having 100 people on your list just would not be worth your time and effort. So if you were doing a campaign to target people who've never bought from you before, you may want to have at least 10,000 people on that list. Or it actually doesn't matter because you're doing it as a triggered email, and that size is going to build up over time. So you won't have 10,000 people or 1 million people on the list right now, but over time that number is going to build up because it's a triggered automated campaign. So think about the size, think about what the criteria is for your business, because in terms of money, the anticipated return, now return could be profits, but it could also be another objective, such as awareness or brand sentiment, for example. That return has got to exceed the cost of creating those segments and putting that additional marketing in place. So think about that as well. Making sure you've got enough difference between your segments. So making sure that, for example, if you wanted to have a segment of women who buy sandals versus women who buy flip-flops, is that a big enough difference in your business? It might well be, but it might not be because they're a very similar type of shoe. So you might want to group those into one segment versus those who want boots, for example. That's two completely different segments, two completely different times of year that you would wear them. You've got a measurable difference between those segments. So think about that difference area. And also when you're think about the different benefits. So the segments have to have different enough needs that you can communicate different content, different ideas, different offers to them. And it's going to make sense to break those up into different areas. Then think about, have you got the data that you need in the right place for you to be able to create those segments? And can your team create those segments quickly and easily in order to send those marketing messages out? So those are the questions that I want you to ask. So for every segment that you think about, list them out and then ask yourself those questions for each one. And once you've done that, you can start plotting them on a segmentation matrix. So your two sides to the matrix can be anything you want. I've got a couple of examples here for you. So it could be low value to high value, and along the bottom, small segment to large segment. So what we're always aiming for is that top right-hand corner, the segments that end up in the top right-hand corner. So in this case, they'd be high value and a large segment. brilliant. The more people that we can email that gives us a high value return, the better in this case. If it's a low value in a small segment, you probably don't want to bother with it. We can change up that bottom access. It could be hard to create versus easy to create. So if it's a high value segment that's easy to create, so the further towards that top right hand corner, the better. That's where we want to go. So this is a really visual way of you doing that. Now, you can also do this in a chart where you score it. So you would have a list down in your left-hand column, your first column of all of your ideas. The next column would be a score of 1 to 10, depending on how easy you feel it would be to create in your business. 1 being really hard, 10 being really easy. The next column would be the potential return. I mean, of course, return can change depending on your business objectives, but 1 being no return at all or very little return, and 10 being an extremely high return. Score each idea 1 to 10 in those 2 areas, create your total, and then whichever ideas have the highest score, it's pretty much the same as doing it in this visual format, but it's in a list format. Those are the ones you start with. Those are the ones that link together. Now, of course, you could then put in a third scoring column for how close it is to being able to help you meet your objective. Add that into the score as well. And that's going to add an extra layer of complexity to the way that you choose which programs, which segmentation strategies. You can use this for all different types of decision making within your marketing strategy, not just segmentation, but you can use the matrix and the list to decide what to work on next. Once you've decided what segments to target, it's important to understand how you position the right message and product or information to target those segments. So you've got to think about, why should those consumers buy from me instead of my competitors in the first instance? So think about what your USP is, and think about creating a visual view of how you're perceived against other products and services in the market. That's going to help you bring out your USP. So this is all going towards, what is the content that you're going to put out there? Why should people buy from you? What's your USP? Plan that out. But what's the product that is most suited to that audience? What's the promotion, the offer, the price that is most suited to that individual audience? And this is the positioning, the P element. So we've had the S element, and this is the P element. And then how are you going to push it out there as well? So product, price, place, promotion, or distribution. That's the classic, 4 Ps, the way that you push this out to your audience. So this is a really great framework for you to understand what the content is that you should be talking to that segment with as well. So think about it just lightly in terms of those areas. So let's look at an example of how this is done. You can layer up your segmentation, and when you get more and more advanced, this is how you would do it. So you would layer it to the point where you get to that one-to-one personalization level. So eBay, for example, have their static elements. So they bring in the person's gender, where they are in the country, or the business that they work for example. They bring in propensity models of what somebody will be most likely to buy next. And then they bring in that real-time behavioral one-to-one personalization based on what they last browsed, for example, or the keywords that they last looked at in those products. And within that, they create different areas of their email. And this is a kind of an amalgamation of lots of different parts of an email, just to show you what you can do to bring in content. So it could be still interested in what you've viewed recently. It could be based on what you've last watched. So on eBay, you can watch products. We recommend these. People who bought these products also bought these. People who are watching these products also watch these. So it's personalized recommendations based on all of those elements in a layered strategy. So the more and more advanced you get, the more pieces of data you will pull in to create a segmentation. So you could have women who are 25 to 35, have bought sandals from you before and are a size 7, because you've got a product that is in the sale, it's only available in size 7. that's the product you would then advertise to those people. So depending on your objectives, depends on how deep you go and what the data is that you use to create segments for your individual business. I mentioned RFM analysis a little bit earlier on. So this allows you to create groups of people based on purchase data. It's a way of segmenting your audience into different levels of how likely they are to buy from you again, and then what content they need to push them through. So those best customers, those VIPs, those hero customers, you want to turn them into brand ambassadors, but you probably wouldn't need to do much incentivization to get them to buy again. You probably wouldn't want to be spending budget on retargeting them with PPC or Facebook ads, for example, because they're already going to come back to you again. But you want to work on creating advocates for your business and how you turn them into those brand ambassadors with your content and get them to refer you to other people. Whereas at the other end of the scale, you've got your customers who haven't ever bought from you before, and the information that they need to know, they need to understand that they can trust your business, what you offer that other people don't. They need to be inspired by the products that you've got. You could bring in behavioral information to look at what they've been browsing on your website or what they've been clicking on to inspire them with product recommendations, one-to-one personalization based on what they've looked at as to what they should be doing next. So there's loads of different ways that you can do this depending on your business. But offering that personalization in your content is a great way to help people move forward and inspire them with things that are going to relate to them and connect with them. Personalized product recommendations, for example, in emails or on product pages can increase sales by 3.5%. 80% of customers like it when they receive personalized product information. It speaks to that individual person. It speaks to the psychology of talking to them and what they want. Here's some other examples for you. So LinkedIn do this with talking to the data of what's happened on somebody's profile. So you've appeared in a certain number of searches, or certain people have looked at your profile or connected with you, or that type of information that really brings it into their world. Personalizing imagery based on their name. In this example, you've got personalized Ks for Kim, who was receiving this email. So bringing in products that then relate to Kim and make her feel special. A birthday email. So this is sent based on when my birthday is, to target me with information to inspire me to treat myself for my birthday and redeem a special offer as well. So one-to-one personalization, groups of segmented data, there's lots of different ways that you can do it. But you have to know when to suppress. So there's the creepy and the annoying element of personalization. Think about if you wanted to propose to somebody. You want to search on the internet for perhaps different rings, different ways of proposing, but you don't want your partner who you already live with to know that. Now, if you're browsing on your mobile or if you're browsing on your computer, you're going to be on the same IP address as them browsing on their mobile or on their computer. So if you are running retargeting campaigns on PPC ads, on Facebook ads, saying, you viewed this, you may also like this, or hey, planning to get engaged, check out these tips. You're going to alert your partner to the fact that you've been browsing that information. Go incognito, by the way. That's one way to stop that from happening. But as marketers, we have to think about the human situation of what we are targeting. So there's another example for you here. So this company in America has some stores dotted around America, but they don't have stores in every state, for example. They don't have them in every town. So what they're doing here is they're creating a dynamic map that shows you where your local store is. Now, the issue with this, and the fact is that they haven't thought about the human element, but this customer's local store was over 3 hours away from their address. So if you had brought in the human element, because this really annoyed the person that it was sent to, that's not a local store. This should have been changed out, perhaps depending on if the store was a certain distance away. So again, a little bit of analysis on your data to work out the distance from that customer's home address, for example, or using dynamic real-time content based on their current position. If it was a certain distance away, this should have been changed for an online call to action or just removed altogether from the email. So think about the human element. Another example for you from Uber. So Uber were trying to do a brilliant thing here by reiterating how many minutes you've ridden with them, how many rides you've taken. But if it was under a certain amount of rides or a certain amount of minutes, they should have changed that content to actually give you a prompt to come back and use the service again. So think about how it's going to come across to your users. Think about those outlying areas where it might come across as annoying or just wrong that you're being sent that information, and how you can use segmentation to then change based on what those people would need. AI is going to help you to do a lot of this, artificial intelligence, and there's lots of different ways, of course, of using artificial intelligence and lots of different meanings of it. But certainly think about how you can use it in your email marketing to deliver an analysis and a recommendation based on what you know about people and what they might be likely to do next, to give them the best product for them. So one-to-one, based on what they've browsed before, based on what they've bought before, but also thinking about your business objectives. So if one of your business objectives is to increase the margins of the products that you're selling, not only would you try and suggest to somebody who's previously bought a table that they might like to buy some chairs because that's an upsell to the products that they've previously purchased, or a tablecloth, for example, but you would also then take those recommendations and make sure you're serving up those that are most relevant to the consumer, but that have the highest margins for your business. You might use it to change your messaging. So your tone, the sentiment that you're using in your copy, your subject lines, the type of imagery that you're using. You can use something like Phrasee, for example, to use a lot of language analysis. That's a system. Phrasee is a system that you can use to understand what the best tone of voice, sentiment, wording, offer types to use in your subject lines or your call to action buttons to get the best response from your audience, to connect with them in the right way. Changing the time you send your emails, changing what the messaging is based on what they need right now, or even changing the design. So if you want to get really advanced, you could analyze how individual customers interact with your emails. Do they regularly click on text-based links or bulletproof buttons, or image-based links? That would tell you whether they're a left brain person or a right brain person. You could then, in theory, change your email design to be different depending on whether they're a left brain or a right brain, and they want more image-based or they want more text-based. Now that's a massively advanced strategy, and I'm not saying it would necessarily be worth it in terms of time and resources. You've got to go through that question, that set of questions, as to whether or not it would be worth it, but it just gives you ideas of what you could do going forward. So companies are using artificial intelligence in lots of different ways, and email marketing is one way that people are starting to take advantage of that technology. So they're using it in terms of predictive analytics in a lot of time. Now, that's the branch of advanced analytics that's used to make predictions about unknown future events. So that predictive model of what people might want. So predictive analytics uses lots of different techniques. And this is why I'm saying there's lots of different areas of AI. Data mining, statistics, modeling, machine learning, bringing that artificial intelligence together to analyze data and make predictions about the future. And you can see from this chart that predictive analytics is increasing in the amount that people are using it, because it's allowing them to get cleverer and exceed the expectations of what people want. So with the help of predictive analytics in all of your marketing, you're going to know which data works best for which group of people within your audience, which segment, which individual people, and it's going to help you to create the best combination of promotions and emails to send and the messages that you're sending within that. You're going to help you to use that data to market your service better through that data-driven marketing, executing predictive analytics along with other things like data visualization, automated personalization, your CRM processes, and bringing all of this together. Okay, so marketers are making something bigger, increasing what they're doing by using data-driven marketing and all of those techniques. So let me show you an example you've probably seen from Amazon all the time. So this is a buying page on Amazon. We've got different areas here. We can bundle things together. So we're offering them the opportunity to automatically buy other products that we would recommend goes with that initial product. We're cross-selling by saying customers who bought this also bought this. And we're also encouraging them based on what other people bought after viewing that item. We're doing upsells to other elements. So you can bring all of this data into your email marketing as well, particularly if you've already got the technology working on your website. You just need to be able to pull that data. I say just, it's obviously more complicated than that, but bringing it into your email marketing content as well. So with the aid of those predictive analytics, bringing your data together, you can always keep your customers interested. And if they're happy with your service and your business, they're probably going to buy from you more often. So there was some data that showed that millennials spend 21% more when they get a better customer experience. And these are the people who are coming through. And as those younger generations come through, they're going to want this more and more. So you have to think about how you can put it into your strategy now to move forward. So ensure that you're thinking about how you can utilize predictive analytics to encourage your customers to buy more and continually update that data with interests and different pieces of information so you can customize your websites, your emails, all those different pieces of information. Okay. So for example, if your customers make a purchase only during sales or events, don't bombard them with loads of emails about full price, expensive products. Think about their buying behavior, understand it, analyze it, and then work with that to target them at specific times with specific offers, specific products that relate to that behavior that they have. If you notice that they only buy a particular product every single month, customize your emails to restock those products. There's lots of things that you do. But again, let's talk about the creepy. So I want you to go onto Google and look up this example from Target. So just put down, Target baby data or something like that, and you'll find this example. But basically, in summary, what Target did was they did a load of analysis on their data, and they found that women during certain stages of their pregnancy bought certain products. So from that analysis, they could determine, based on the products being bought, that a woman was in a certain phase of pregnancy. Now, they then went ahead and used this to send really overtly targeted emails saying, hey, you're in this stage of pregnancy, you might like to buy these products. The issue with that was that there was a gentleman that went into a store in mid-America and had a go at the sales clerks in there saying, why are you sending emails to my teenage daughter advertising products about pregnancy? This isn't right. It's not okay. You shouldn't be doing this. Now, of course, it turned out that that teenage daughter was indeed pregnant, but Target had started sending her emails about that before she'd even told her parents about it. So this, again, is where the non-creepy human element comes in. Pregnancy is such a personal experience. It can be a very upsetting experience if something goes wrong. There are lots of different circumstances that this is a very human emotion, a human experience. And if we just use data and don't think about the human consequences and the emotions of how somebody would feel when they receive that from you, then you're going to have problems with how it is received. So what Target did was they decided that, that targeting was too overtly obvious, and they toned it down. So they still used that very valuable analysis, but they made it less obvious. They made it more subtle as to how they were then advertising those products. So they interspersed them with other products that you wouldn't necessarily buy during pregnancy. Now, they still saw an uplift in those specific pregnancy-related products, but it wasn't so in your face. It wasn't so overt. For Target, with this piece of information, that was the line between okay and creepy, helpful and creepy. And that's the line that you need to find in your business, depending on the segmentation and personalization that you're doing and where that line appears. So let's just look at some more examples of this. So you've got your obvious personalization, clearly showing the recipient that the email is meant for her or him alone, with specific product recommendations, content recommendations. It's going to use data like that behavior-based data, your purchase-based data, recommendations, your location, your name, something specific that references this is recommended for you, and it's obvious it is just for them based on their data. Now, this could also be based on browse behavior. For example, you browse something specific and then they send you an overtly obvious email. Are you looking for something in our floral arranging store? If so, you might be interested in these items. Really specific. Or it could be something more subtle. So you can use this when your customers might find that overt, obvious approach too creepy, when it crosses the line in terms of human element. This is where we've got to link in the technology and the human, and this is where you're needed as marketers. So especially if you're bringing in third-party data that they might not expect you to have, think about how it could go wrong from a human element and avoid that creepiness factor. You've got to get customers to think about it as, wow, this brand totally gets me, this email totally gets me, and not, I don't like that, that's too much. How did you know that about me? Why do you have a picture of me in your store last Tuesday? That's too much. Okay, so this example from Secret Escapes, it's a travel newsletter, and it basically gives you packages based on offers that you've previously browsed, but it's not overtly obvious. Okay, it's a bit of a softer way to put this information into an email. So when you're implementing personalization, I want you to think about three main things. What's your objective? Go back to module 1, break it down into those different levels of objectives. What's the business challenge you want to solve through personalization? And then how are you going to go about doing that? So develop your strategy. Where are you going to introduce personalization? How are you going to break down those segments? And then your tactics, how you're going to specifically carry out that strategy, how it's going to happen. Are those segments worth creating for your business? And then how do you go about connecting the right content and product positioning to link all of that together? So think about all of those elements when you're looking at your data. Link together module 1, 2, and 3, and then come back when you're ready and let's dive into module 4. Thanks, everyone.